Miraculously made does not mean you can waste it. Conserve your energy. Don't waste it. The Lord was teaching them on every occasions, every occasions. So this whole matter of being with them and paying a great price physically, immediately after feeding the 5,000, what did the Lord ask the disciples? It was already evening, by 5, 6 o'clock. The Lord said, get into your boat, cross Tiberias and go to the other side. And disciples said, no, we know the Sea of Tiberias. It's not a sea, it's a lake, but they call it because of its vastness sea. We cannot, we will not, because we know what that lake was like that in the night. Jesus persuaded and forced them, absolutely don't say a word, get in, move. They were physically exhausted, mentally exhausted, even I think spiritually exhausted. Jesus put them on there. When they reached halfway in the middle of the lake, the big, boisterous wind began to blow. Why the Lord waited until then? Because otherwise they will come to the shortest distance, They cannot go this way because equal distance. So they tried very hard and very hard. The Lord was teaching them. Obey the most difficult commandments. All through the Gospels you read, did the disciples ever ask the Lord to do something? Or suggested that? The order was always given by the Lord, always. There was one time Peter wanted to give an order, when the Lord said, I'll go to Jerusalem and be handed over to the Pharisees and all, they are going to kill. What did Peter just took him like this? Come here, I want to talk to you. Shake him and said, no way, we are not going to allow you. We have forsaken all and followed you because I want to be the prime minister and this fellow want to be the finance minister. Sit on your right and left. What are you talking about? You have a suicide mentality, seems like. Shaking him. Man, the Lord gave him, said, you devil, get out from here. You are not seeking the things of the Lord, but the things of man. The Lord never allowed the disciples even to suggest, Lord, we do like this. No, because discipleship is taking orders, not giving orders. It is teaching them to obey. Obey has the idea somebody giving the commands, right? They were always before the firing squad. Always. Yes. So, the paying that much price is very, very difficult. Desire for popularity is another reason. Today somebody wanted to start ministry in the full-time ministry, missionary or whoever may be. What is the question people ask? You have been there in the mission field for 1 year. What's the question they are going to ask? Brother, how many believers are there in the church? Discipleship is a one-to-one. Average it takes 3 years to make if you are as good as the Lord, which we know we are not. Say you are as good as the Lord, so 3 years and so at the end of 3 years you say, I have one, I am trying to disciple him. Only one? Second year again, brother, how ministry going? Wonderful. Discipleship, how many? Third year, how things going? Oh, great, we are excited about discipleship. How many? Will anybody support him? So what people wanted is just to go and do some gimmicks and get 1,000 people, this, that, and somebody asks, how things going? Very good. How many? 1,000 people. Wow, that's what we want. We'll support your ministry. So easy, the popularity, easy success, easy some popularity, that's what everybody wants. Discipleship is a slow process. Very slow process. Then is there any guarantee that it's going to be successful? Turned out to be a Judas? Even what about Peter? On the crisis point, what did Peter say to everybody? I do not know him. Never met him, never heard about him, nothing. Who are you talking about? Huh? Me, a disciple? Hey! Never. You know, the girl said that your talk, Peter said, you know, I speak other language. He began to curse and swear. The old fisherman's language began to come from his mouth, so that that girl will be convinced he cannot be, even by any imagination, a follower of Jesus Christ. Girl must have said, now I am convinced you are not. You are not. So I said that even after 3 years of discipling, this is the product. If that's the case of the discipler being Jesus Christ and the disciple being Peter and all those things, when Jesus was caught, except John, everybody, they ran away from him for their life. Only that much commitment. So this whole matter of popularity, popularity, yes. Today, easy success, that's what wanted. So everybody goes out, they have some, either it's healing what people wanted, or it is prosperity gospel. You're going to get a Rolls Royce car or Mercedes Benz, this sort of thing. If you, 100-fold God is going to give. So put 500 rupees today, 100-fold how much? Next week when you come, you will have, the Lord is give that much. So you throw your money and then you scratch your back and say that. But when is the 100-fold coming? But that's the kind of thing. Everybody is promised that great things are going to happen. Well, it's our time, so we're going to take a break here. So what are we saying? We are saying that discipleship is not very popular, or people not accepting it. It's because there are many problems they have to overcome. Many problems. It's not very popular. I'm surprised so many of you are interested in at least this topic. Is it because you didn't know much about it? Or is it really because the Holy Spirit has, worked in your heart, convinced you that this is something you want? Anyway, it's nice to know something about discipleship, because that's what the job God had given us. Go make disciples. Hopefully it will do some good. If not you, it will do some good to me. At least I will be convinced that, I'm not good enough to make disciples. I have to grow more. So we will continue our discussion on discipleship. We were talking why discipleship has not been very popular for people, why people are not after it. We cited many reasons, such as the false contentment Constantine has given to Christianity, and also the lack of example today, both of discipler and disciplee, and the persecution of true believers by the pseudo-believers or pseudo-disciples. Anything you demand that faith, baptism and church membership is not sufficient. More than that, then they are targets of other people who insistently say that's enough. Then the fear of failure, both on the part of the disciplee. If I join such a program, will I be rejected eventually after a few weeks? Then everybody will say that, he is a reject. He can never become a disciple. So that will affect maybe opportunities for ministry in the church. For the discipler again, if some people are turned out to be bad, then those people will be known as the disciple of so and so, and look what pathetic condition they are in. Desire for popularity, want to make, like in English say, want to make a quick buck. Christian leaders all want to make a quick name. Short time, lot of followers, that's it. But that's not possible in discipleship. It's a slow process. Even for Jesus it took 3 years. how much more time it will take for somebody else. Unwillingness to pay the price. You are exposing yourself to others. Others are not willing to expose their life to you, and you are not willing to expose your family life, private life, every area. The area of your personal private life is going to shrink to very minimal. Everybody else will say, we have a right to know it. They want to know everything, what's happening between you and your wife. Why you didn't love your wife the way we expected. Why you didn't discipline your children. And so many areas. Then there is peer pressure by Christian leaders. Because the so-called great leaders, charismatic leaders, people whose name and fame stands out, you will be coming almost like, condemning them, because that's not what the Lord has told you to do. Lord never said you go and gather a large crowd around you and just collect offerings and, build big buildings and auditoriums and big fancy programs and all these things. But the Lord said go and make disciples, invest in the life of individuals. So those people are going to come publicly and condemn you. Because you kind of, for them, they feel you are judgmental of. They are like, who are you to question our, ministry, that sort of people. Denominational pressure, oh boy, that's another thing. And say, for example, there are denominations who do not believe in believers' baptism. Your first step is, after believer, you baptize them and then teach them to, so you cannot proceed any further. And you're going to tell them that, hey, you need to be baptized, and you take them and baptize, then you're going to come in conflict with those denominational leaders. They're definitely going to. Even many of the parachurch organizations, who are doing discipleship, they in their constitution have come to a compromise agreement. We will not talk about baptism, we will not talk about church, we will not talk about some charismatic gift and all that. In another sense, they have come to a conclusion that no problematic area we will touch upon. Even though the Lord has commanded, we are going to say that, hey, that subject we won't talk here. Now the question is, who are you to make such a compromise? When the Lord said go and baptize and make disciples, who are you to say that we won't talk about baptism? Now who will talk about baptism? How can you disciple without baptizing? Because the practical ways to make a disciple is preaching, those baptizing the believers. Then only you teach them to obey and all things. And all things includes what? The Great Commission, baptism and all those things. So this compromise, it's everywhere. Hey, such things we don't talk. In our circles we don't talk. Well, yet they are saying they are making disciples. I am discipled by so and so. You see, a baptized believer, no, he doesn't believe in baptism. So how come you are baptized? You are discipled. So this is an anomaly. You cannot compromise these things. How they fit into? They don't fit into. So denominational pressures are there. Great. Many major denominations, you don't know, they don't believe or teach in believers' baptism. How can they make disciples? So that means a large section of Christendom is outside the scope of discipleship. They're outside the scope of discipleship. Yes. So all these problems are there. The problem of the dichotomy in the church. They say you create two kinds of Christians, disciples and believers. Disciples and believers. Inside the church, some are disciples, some are believers. The super spiritual disciples will be said, I'm a disciple, you are not, But there is an easy method. The early church, what it was, in the church everybody was a believer. Some were disciples and very few were Christians. Because only when disciples mature, they are called Christians. In the church at Antioch, that's what happened, right? Yeah. The name Christian was given to them after the disciples were matured and they lived like Jesus Christ. Then others called, hey, now you are a Christian. Now we understand what. Now it is not like that. Everybody is a Christian. Some are believers. Nobody is a disciple. And this is formula. So, we are living in a counterfeit system. And to break down the foundations and rebuild it, who is going to permit you? This is very, very difficult. So there are many, many obstacles in the way of discipleship. When the Lord actually designed His program, when after His baptism He started His public ministry, the first thing the Lord did was calling some people to Him, that they may be with Him, that He may teach them, and then He may send them out. So He went out and called 12 people. He had other disciples. The 70 were disciples. The 120 were disciples. The 500 were disciples. But they were not discipled like the 12. Paul was discipled by the Lord Himself. He has taken him out to the Arabia. He says that after his baptism, he was taken out to Arabia for 3 years. Seems like it is a 3-year program basically, if the Lord is doing it. If somebody else is, it may be 30-year program, depends upon. So even if it is the Lord who is doing it, it's 3-year program. And even if the candidate is a man like Paul, taught by Gamaliel, greatest scholar of all the time, even it will take 3 years, because the stripping part takes time. You have to take away so much. It's just like the piece of big granite stone there, somebody is sculpturing on it. Maybe, whoever it is, Mahatma Gandhi, you have to chip off so much stone from all sides, right? Then only you can start actually sculpturing it. The chipping away part is the difficult, and many of the commandments of the Lord, they are aimed at stripping away. Yes. Teaching people to hate, for example. The Lord said, unless you hate your father, mother, brother, sister, your wife, your children, and your own life, you cannot be my disciple. We needed to teach people to hate. People say, Christianity is not a religion of hate, but Christianity is a religion of love. But the Lord said you have to hate. So Christians have mellowed it down, saying that means superior love. That's what the Lord said. Unless you have superior love for me, unless you love me more than you. That's not the word Lord used. Miseo is a word that means only hatred. The word used, God hates sin. The very word miseo is used, the same word used there. How can you translate it? Because people don't understand what is discipleship. They want to be nice with people. Hey, hate your father. You're supposed to honor your father, right? Yeah, the Bible says, honor your father. But remember when once Jesus' own brothers and mother came, Mark chapter 3, you can see it. They all came to take Jesus by force because they said he is out of his mind. He has gone eccentric. Pagal ho gaya. Ab pakdo unko. So a message was communicated to Jesus, your mother and your brothers are standing outside. Jesus knew why they were there. Jesus immediately said, who is my mother? My mother? Who is my mother? You are my mother who do the God's will. And you are my brothers. If Mary hear that, did he say that who is my mother? How much shame I have taken for him. A sword has gone through my heart so many times, it's still going on. And I never expected something from his own mouth saying, who is my mother? Yeah, the Lord learned how to hate his mother. That does not mean you don't love your mother. we need to know what that hate means, Why hate? So what I mean to say is that the stripping, taking it away, the chipping away, that chisel and hammer has to placed on every rough edge in your life. So it will take some time to chip it away. Peter was the hardest stone the Lord has chipped. After all, he was a stone. He was called Kepha, or he was called Petros. He is a stone, and very hard stone. The Lord had to chip and chip and chip. Yes. Finally, he accepted. The only time Peter did not reply back is at the seaside. When the training was over, the graduation service was there. The Lord said, Peter, you are young, and now you are young, you decided where you go, and you decided what you will go. But I tell you, the day is coming when somebody else is going to decide it for you. By force, they are going to take you to where you don't want to go. He didn't say anything. No, Lord, no. He simply said, what will happen to John? Please. Is he also having the same, or I'm the only one? The Lord said, mind your own business. That's none of your business. So finally Peter passed. He passed because he accepted God's will that was diametrically opposed to his personal interest. Death was something Peter could never accept, because when Jesus said, we will go to Jerusalem, there the Son of Man shall be caught and all that, that's when Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. Now that Peter said, Amen only. For his own little comfort said, am I the only one who is going to hold this fellow also? Lord didn't comfort him, said, if I want him to live until I come back, what is it for you? Your fate is sealed. You're going to be taken away by force by others. And Peter did marvelously, because tradition says at the time of crucifixion, because he was not a Roman citizen, he was crucified. Paul was beheaded because he was a Roman citizen. He requested that he be crucified upside down, head down. They asked him why. He said, my Lord was crucified head up. While I die, I wanted to kiss his feet, symbolically at least. Let me die kissing his feet. So Peter was bold, he accepted it. And discipleship is that, There was something in Peter's personality that the Lord had to chip away. Very, very painful. But Peter learned to accept it. That's what discipleship is all about. The other part comes later, the formation part. The formation part. After the sculptor chip away all the unwanted pieces, he begin to take very fine tools, now start carving the shape of whomever he wants to, Yes. There it is very mild, because you cannot chip very hard because the piece will go break, useless. But then that's a long process. The other is a short process in a sense. You can hit a hammer big, Yes, big hammers you can, and big chisels, yes. So it's all, what I mean to say that, discipleship is not an easy process as you think it is. It's a difficult process. Yes. The Lord said in Luke chapter 6 verse 40 and Matthew 10, 24 and 25, we have said that, he said it is enough for the servant to be like his master and for the disciple to be like his discipler. And then Luke 6:40 says that when everyone is fully trained, he will become fully trained. Now that is the process, fully training. Fully training is not easy. In Mahabharata, I think, where is it? There is a story. I don't know. I have read these things. but can't remember who said it to whom. He was teaching the shooting arrows. Arjuna, okay. This big pole, long 60-foot pole, over the top there is a bird's nest there, kind of made. It has 7 doors, and one little bird will be peeping in different. So you have to shoot right in the eye of the bird. If you just peep on, take it back. The birdhouse is rotating. So the many people were there. First one came and said, okay, take your aim, okay? Yeah. What do you see? I see the heaven and the earth and all it contains. You move out. You can never be a shooter. The second one came. Yeah, what do you see? I see the whole pole, and the whole birdhouse. You can never. No, you move out. Then the third one came. Everyone said, I see the whole, door, and you can't. Then finally one said, I only see the eye of a bird. Shoot! It's so precision. That's what discipleship is. Teaching is to shoot, We are people like, we have our own methods for shooting. Some Olympic gold medalist in shooting was passing by somewhere, driving, and he saw one of these bullseye thing, what do you call that? Yeah, billboard, put on the top of a tall tree, and there were 6 arrows all on the bullseye. So he stopped and said, man, there must be some real guy here. So asked the people around there, who has done then, who is the expert? And finally said, there is a man who has done it. So he went and met him and congratulated him. Man, must be something, So asked him, how do you do it? He said, very simple. I keep it on the ground and put the arrows there, climb on the tree and put it there. Isn't that nice? That's our way of discipleship. There is no question of shooting an arrow, aiming at nothing. You just press down 6 arrows there, take it, climb on the wall that you have to learn to climb, and tie it down there. Everybody can see how expert. It doesn't work out like that. Discipleship is not that. That's the kind of discipleship we want. Impress people until they question us. No. So the Lord, when He is fully trained, that fully trained is the key, fully trained. So until the training is over, the trainer must be patient to deal with this person. The trainee must be patient to undergo the training. Man, that's very, very difficult.